Okay, my friends, this is where the magic happens. I had a request for what colors I use in a particular set of scales, and I started writing a rather long reply and realized a picture is worth 1,000 words, to coin a phrase, and thought it would just be easier to show what I use instead of yammer on about it like I'm kind of doing now. So given the limits of trying to hold a camera with one hand and talk and show you everything else, let me see if I can do it. Here are my mica powders up here, and this particular section right here between green and blue is what the gentleman was asking about, and he wanted to know about some turquoise colors. And so let me, excuse me, you're gonna make you sick by the time this is over. Let me show you the turquoise and blue and aqua colors that I have, and greens and so forth, right around that carbon spectrum. So probably one of the main colors I use when I want to get turquoise is Caster's Choice Teal. And it says teal. I don't really consider this teal. I consider it either a straight up turquoise or aqua, however you choose to call that color. On the other hand, there's this Jacquard Pearly X turquoise, and you can see that is not turquoise, that's blue. But for some reason, the shade of blue it is goes very well with the other turquoise colors, don't you think? So I'll use those together. Here's another, I'm not sure what kind this is, art pigments of some kind. And this is called aqua. And this is another one that I use. And it is, it's kind of funny because it's kind of like more translucent than the rest. But you can compare the aqua to the teal, and you can see they're a little bit different. So that's characteristic of the way that I like to do my casting is take several shades of color that are very close and use them together. I also use Drew Hits Macaw Teal, which is more bluish, but a nice blue-green. And the same, this is, I forget where I got this, probably Just Pigments, but it's some kind of a, blue-green aqua type thing. But there's two things you need to watch out for. And one thing is the difference between pigments and dyes and micas and so forth. So the micas are just one thing. They just sparkle, they shimmer, they do all that. But then there's pigments, and pigments are composed, as far as I understand, of very finely powdered solid parts suspended in some kind of a carrier medium. And that's what this is. This is Divine Pigments. And I think they originally started out making coloring for boat hulls, but it works in a polyester or a polyurethane or epoxy resin. And the reason I use it is because it makes a really good separation between the other colors. Something about the carrier that's in here makes it not want to mix with the other colors very well. So it gives some really nice swirly, curly patterns, and I like it that way. But as you can kind of see, it's not sparkly at all. It's pretty opaque. So that's opaque, right? It's the same thing. So you see the same thing on most. This is red, of course, we're not talking about reds, but it's just a good example of, this is fluorescent red, and you just can't get a fluorescent red that's in a mica. And so this is a pigment, and when you can see, it's really bright, but it's opaque. That's not sparkly at all. So if you mix those with your resin with some mica powders in tiny, tiny, tiny little amounts, they'll just, they'll be okay. But it doesn't take much at all until the resin is so cloudy that you don't get the effect of the mica shining through the way you did. And then the other thing to be aware of is that sometimes you'll see, and I'm not sure that that's the case with this, but in some cases I've gotten what I thought was mica powder in a really interesting color. And it turned out that the reason it had a really interesting color was because they put some kind of a pigment in it. And it just ended up having a very muddy, undesirable look and was, to me, unusable. So to get the most jewel-like colors you can, and this is something I just found out myself recently, is really on this stuff, less is more. If you put too much in it, like I did, trying to get a nice color saturation, then you just kind of it kind of steps on itself. You need a certain amount of resin that's translucent so you can see through it to get that depth and that really jewel-like pearlescent feel to it. So that would be one other piece of advice I have for you. Yeah, and then the other things that I use when I'm doing turquoises is I also use the Caster's Choice, not emerald green. I'm sorry. I use the lime green because it goes well with you know, the turquoise type stuff, and then also spruce green, depending on what I'm doing. But spruce green is a darker blue green, and it can also kind of fit really well in that color spectrum, depending on where you're ultimately going with it. But if you just take, if you just take these colors of micas powders, and you can, like I said, you can get Drew Hits, you can get Jacquard, you can get Caster's Choice, or you can get, like I said, Just Pigments has a very nice supply, good reasonable prices. Any of those together, and you get a nice effect. So I hope that helped.